the good news is they're installed. It's taken a little more time than we anticipated with the actual installation, and that's a learning process for the equipment firms that are both manufacturing and installing those. But we are moving ahead with that, and we'll have a report back after we get feedback later this spring.
Thank you, Bruce.
I think it was you, Andre, and Eli.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the money. What I understand of the $3, there's a dollar, but for the plastic problem, it'd only be about $1 increase.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So the other $2 are attributable to this recycling plastic problem. We are, because of this, going to be putting more tonnage to the landfill, or will we?
Not necessarily. The sorting facility, some of their additional costs are to sort it out and get it to a different market rather than China. It's not going to the landfill, but there's high costs because of, one, the additional sorting costs, and there's been a very severe depression of the price of because it's a commodity.
Yeah.
China is not taking it, so we've got oversupply.
Okay.
And so it's depressed the prices.
Okay. And then in terms of, I understand trying to recycle more and get cleaner, but aren't there any initiatives that are just trying to, that we could join to actually get rid of? I mean, I understand it's a world problem, and my understanding, Europe's like putting money to try to solve the problem, not recycling, but to get rid of the plastic, get rid of the initial product so that you don't have the back-end recycling problem. So is there initiatives that we could take a small amount of money as a city and put money in? I feel like a victim here, that we're just getting run over and not being a leader and saying, how do we actually solve the problem at the front end, not do better recycling, but how do we get rid of the plastics and do those things that then we're not worrying about whether we're using the clamshells 5% or 0.5%. We're just not using the clamshell. And is there a way, I don't need to answer it today, but is there something that we can join, start, collect cities to put a small amount of money in? I mean, I'm watching basketball games, and Purdue engineers in 36 hours figure out some thing for someone's broken thing, elbow. I'm pretty sure give the university some money and they'll come up with something pretty quickly that's sustainable. If we can do that, I feel that the citizens should have something on the table, like, hey, we're just not charging you more, but we're trying to figure out a solution. The other side, because as I hear it, it's temporary, can we bifurcate the charge? So the dollar is just the dollar, but like a fuel surcharge when fuel was very high, if you ship freight, they had a regular freight charge and then they had a fuel surcharge. And when the fuel dropped, the fuel surcharge disappeared. And so when we solve the problem, that surcharge disappears theoretically, and you're just back to your regular rate because the recycling, the plastic problem is gone. Theoretically, we're telling people it's temporary, it's not a permanent increase. And if there's one way to help people identify that that's a true problem, is to put the surcharge and make it visible to people.
So we've spent a little bit of time talking about that. One of the things is if it's identified as a separate charge, like a recycling fee, people will misinterpret that and say, oh, we have to pay more because we're recycling, and all the naysayers who think that this is not a good idea and it's been a waste of time. So we've heard that that is the reaction that most people are going to say if we separate it out like that. And it's not really true in terms of it's a part of the recycling fee, just like all of the components. So by us coming back every year, we look at all of the costs, recycling, sorting, you know, all of the pieces of it, how much they're still getting money for selling the materials. It's just not offsetting the costs at this point. So we're at a point where we don't think that's a good idea. We do think that it's a great idea to get people to use less plastics, to begin to identify new products. There's Surfrider and a whole lot of other foundations and that we've been talking with about, well, how do we, as a city, what's our role, along with a lot of other nonprofits and private corporations, to eliminate plastic or to move towards eliminating plastic. So I think that's something, and if you're interested in that, that's something I know the mayor's office is interested in, that we could talk about bringing some information back to the group here.
Yeah, I just look at the fuel surcharge, and it forced, when you're shipping freight, to figure out different solutions, because it was an extra, depending on your truck or your car, freight car, whatever, or whatever you're shipping on, could be thousands of dollars. And you force manufacturers and everybody to look at different shipping methods